Kevin, do roll call, please.
All right. Good. Chair, Gary Delvaux.
Here.
Vice Chair, Matt Schuler.
Here.
Alderperson Barbara Dorr.
Here.
Jim Blumreich.
Here.
Kathy Hinkfist is going to be late, and Melanie Parma has to be excused.
Okay. I entertain a motion to approve of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Jim and Barb, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Approval, a couple minutes here. We have June 12th and June 15th. We can do them together. Looking for approval of those minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of June 12th and June 15th.
Second.
Barb and Matt, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. Okay, regular business. Consideration with possible action on communication on June 19, 2018 of the Common Council with Alderperson Brian Johnson to direct staff to draft a percentage for the arts proposal that will assess a specified percentage on all new and/or redevelopment projects for the purpose of public art installation, maintenance, and funding staff to support the Public Arts Commission. All right, who's got that?
So we got this communication from council.
Yes.
As you know, Public Arts is housed in our Department of Community Economic Development. We're going through the process right now to get some additional funding through block grant and some fundraising from the PAC to make that position closer to full-time. And that's just a one-year plug right now, then fundraising responsible for the future. As we've gone through and done more public arts in the community, we feel it's really important to continue to grow our public arts in terms of the culture and other things that it brings. So with that, Alderman Johnson had asked for us to look at other ways of potentially funding both public art general and specifically that position or the Public Arts Commission. So we're going to look through a few options when it comes to specifically development agreements, development projects, or other development funds, and provide some options for both future agreements, but then also potentially going into the budget in fall, where there might be some opportunities for that. So recommendation to refer to staff and come back with some options.
Go ahead.
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Jim, second by Barb to refer to staff. All the, we got to vote on this one probably, huh? No, just you. Yeah. Okay. And the verdict is?
Passed unanimously.
All right, thank you. All right. Item number 2, consideration of possible action on request to borrow $2 million to fund the first phase of the shipyard development in development agreement 18-02, including property acquisition, geotechnology, environmental testing, architectural, structural, and civil engineering, and design and preliminary site work.
All right.
Yes.
So last month, RDA and council approved a development agreement to move forward with the shipyard. As you know, our reconceptualized plan moves forward, looking again the athletic facility, the waterfront amenities, the container park, and what we'd like to do is trying to be prudent about the spending here is take out the financing in 2 chunks. So this first chunk will look at property acquisition. This is to purchase Badger Sheet Metal property, which is some parcels on Broadway and Maple. It's to purchase the WPS parcel, which is a little triangle right off Broadway and Arndt. And then it's also to repay neighborhood enhancement. We used neighborhood enhancement funding to pick up the Robbie parcels on South Broadway. That's the old cycle shop. So with that, $1.2 million will be used for acquisition. The remaining funds we would like to use for, as mentioned, some additional testing and design of the facility. We've been talking through our development team, myself, Public Works, Parks, in terms of the process of doing that. We will likely put together a request for proposals for design services and these services. It's a pretty complicated project. I mean, we're dealing with brownfield, we're dealing with floodplain, and we want somebody who, has some good experience in this, in terms of the site prep and site management. But then somebody also has resources to think creatively and kind of turn that concept, from just a concept really into a formal design. Once we get to that portion of it, one of the things we'll put in, I think it's very important, we have another round of some public input, both from RDA, council, but also the neighborhood and the community, really to kind of fine tune some of the ideas and what we'd like to see here before presenting a final design for construction. I think with this, the thought was also to have the construction pricing come out with a variety of options, alternatives. We all know construction prices are kind of bouncing around right now and generally in the upwards direction. So I think if, we need to make some choices about what's priority in terms of getting done right away, this will give us some options to do that. And we hope to move forward with that RFP probably in the coming weeks, and hopefully get this summer, award a contract to work with a consultant to perform some of these services. So with that, this basically authorizes us to start the process of soliciting options for funding. I don't know if Director Allenbecker is here, who can talk about some of the options that we have, both public and private. Most likely, I think we'll probably end up doing the state trust fund for this borrowing. Again, in the best interest of the city, whatever we can get in terms of the lowest cost of borrowing this money. So with that, we're asking for your approval to move forward with this. This item is simultaneously on the Finance Committee agenda today as well, and then we'll go to council next week.
You mentioned that you're gonna borrow in 2 phases. What's the total amount, or next phase will be how much?
Yep, so the total amount, we said that the development agreement allows us to borrow up to $9.5 million. I think one of the things we also see this as opportunity is now that we have the go-ahead with this project, we're continuing to wait to hear back on some other grant opportunities. And so depending on where those fall, that can impact the amount that we're having to borrow. So if we're able to have some additional funds secured ahead of time, then we won't have to borrow as much. I think the budget again is still around $10 million. We'll be going back to the stadium district. Their request is that we rescind our original agreement and ask new for this, but we'll be going back for the $500,000 for that as well. And so that just gives us a little time to put those pieces in place before, instead of just today drawing $9.5 million out and figuring out what happens. Just the stage borrowing will help us, I think, financially in terms of just sunk costs, and we can't use it all right away, so it doesn't pay for us to borrow it right away.
Absolutely. Anything new with private interest?
Yes, so we continue to work on the north side of the slip. There's been interest developers, and then also a few others since the development agreement has passed. Most likely next month or September, we could have an agreement for some development, private development on some of those parcels.
Good, very good.
And what environmental work has been done on that site? Anything, just studies and just generally assessing?
So the site has obtained, and I'll ask Matt to back me up because he's the specialist. Both sites have been closed, and so if we are going to work with that, though, since they were closed, some of their additional changes to environmental laws have come up in terms of things you need to look for. But we've been working with the DNR, and most likely what we'll require is an amendment to the closure. And so we'll have to look at the closure that was done, basically caps that were put in place, and then based on our new plan of fill we're bringing in, DNR fills will generally be pretty good because we're basically adding to the cap.
Yep.
Some precautions will have to be taken in areas where you want to drill down to do pilings or other things. But in all, the contaminants are really what you find all around downtown Green Bay. There's nothing super toxic or super dangerous in terms of exposure to human health or safety. And so we've been working pretty closely with them in terms of how we move forward with that plan.
And because for me, it's a question probably about when we might structure the acquisition of properties, right? Just on the risk of, we go in and we do some environmental assessment and find out, oh, wow. And then we go, So it would, to me, cause when we might buy property versus not, because if we did go in there and find something really bad that said, oh, this is now a $30 million project.
No, and we gave ourselves an out with the Badger sheet metal
Okay.
property. But so far, again, our meetings with the DNR, they've not found anything that causes them concern, and especially our, potential uses, short-term for storage, medium-term for
Yep.
surface parking. They don't see any reason that any extreme action is needed to take care of any of those. So
Okay.
we made sure, to go through and thanks to, Matt, working on the consultant to do the phase 1 and do the phase 2, just to make sure we're not opening up a huge can of worms or
Yep.
money down the drain.
So, Kevin, a question about the RFP. That would come back here for approval?
If you'd like it to, it can. In terms of, because it's professional services, generally there's some leeway for administration to do that. Given the size and the scope of the project, I kind of feel it's appropriate, to put out something publicly. I also feel that, given this is a pretty big signature project for the city, I think we could probably get some competitive bidding for it. If you would like to see the RFP come back before this body for approval, I think that's, if you'd like to make that motion, I'm comfortable with that, to see what's all in there. So
I'm
if
just
we want to
curious
take it.
about those that would bid, getting a feel for where they're headed with their mindset on what this project's gonna look like. That's more my concern.
Mhm.
Obviously, we're concerned about money, but that's not the highest priority in my mind.
Sure.
I think from that standpoint, I'd like to see it come
Okay.
back.
Yep.
And then from a timing standpoint, what would you estimate we'd have people in here giving us an idea?
Well, I think given where this project has been, we'd like to have done it yesterday. For sure, I would like to get the RFP back before here at the next meeting. Potentially, even if it's done before that, maybe even going to a special meeting to basically get it out there. I'll talk a little bit more with Parks and Public Works in terms of their period that they feel comfortable with. You want to put it enough time that somebody has time to put together a
Right.
quality proposal,
Right.
but not so much time
Right.
that, okay, they take, drag
Yeah.
their feet on it. So I'm guessing probably it's going to be somewhere between a window of like 30 and 60 days
Yep, that's
that we're going to ask for.
Sure, okay.
Bring it back's a good idea, John.
Okay.
Okay, Barb, any question?
No, actually, they were asked. So, that's
And
all.
just one last, Kevin, the prices that are in here for the properties, these are fully negotiated and agreed to?
Correct. These
with
are
the
ones we have in our
property.
contract, all contingent upon approval here and contingent on getting the funding source.
That's it.
Okay, we need to add to this motion that RFP should come back to us. Would you make a separate motion?
Yeah, or you can amend, recommend, do that, and then just adding something on there, further, that the RFP come back before
Sure.
RDA for
Okay.
approval, before being issued. Is that?
All right, then we'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, that's fine. You can even do a separate motion afterwards, directing staff to just bring the RFP back to you if you want to keep it cleaner.
Okay,
Let's keep it.
I think we'll do that.
Okay.
That's what we'll do. But we're gonna go with, well, first of all, is there a first and second on this particular motion?
So I'll motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
Okay.
Second.
There's Jim and Matt have made a first and second, so we shall vote.
Passed unanimous.
Okay, now I entertain a motion for the RFP to come back to you.
Yeah, I'll move that. The RFP comes back.
Okay, Barb
And I'll second.
and Jim. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, number 3.
Slides on. Moving chairs.
All right, consideration of possible action to acquire 505 Fifth Street, parcel neighborhood enhancement, I printed it off, I can get all the word, hang on. Consideration possible action to acquire 505 Fifth Street parcel 2-879 using neighborhood enhancement funds. And that is
That'd be
Ken.
me, yes, all right. 505 Fifth Street is a single-family home located in the Shipyard neighborhood. The original owner has passed away, and now the children are maintaining the property. It is vacant right now. Staff has toured the property. It's not really in great shape, so it'll probably need to be demolished. You're looking at probably about maybe $9,000 to $10,000 for demolition. Other than that, though, it'll give us a buildable lot in the Shipyard area, so.
Oh, great. Move to approve. Motion made by Barb to approve,
1 second.
second by Jim.
Just give me 1 second. Passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Item 4, consideration of possible action to acquire 1253 9th Street, parcel 1-428-C, using community development block grant funds. Hey, there it is.
Hi. So this property came to us through the owner, and the owner wanted to sell the property. It was hit by a car, and it was demolished. And part of the agreement was we would pick it up upon approval for the price of the land. So $15,100 is the purchase price.
How fast was the vehicle going?
It was going really fast. And it's the second time this thing was hit, too.
Really?
It's in the
There was a
middle of the street.
ridge
Yeah.
up on Fisk and 9th Street. There's a bump up there, and cars like to launch off that.
Oh,
This
jeez.
person was excessive, of course,
Wow.
going 90 miles an hour, I believe. That's what I heard.
What time of the morning?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know the details, but the homeowner wanted out. That was the second time the house was hit with small children inside
Oh
of
my
it. And
gosh.
she's like, I want out of here. So they offered it to us to acquire, and we thought it'd be a great CDBG project to spread some of the properties around the city. So,
And that's what's on the taxable land value?
yes, sir.
Okay.
So this, okay, CDBG, got it.
Entertain a motion.
Do you have a question?
Oh, sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So will we do anything like with traffic like in pad to make sure that no one crashes into the new place?
No. I don't believe so. Was build a home and trust that our Department of Public Works will correct that problem.
Oh, okay, but do they know about it?
Pardon me?
They do know about the problem, I'm just.
Yeah, I'm sure, I think they're well aware of it
Okay.
because there's a police report on this whole thing, and that's happened, it's occurred more than once.
I think Alderman Weir put in a communication on that at the last council meeting.
To have traffic like
To have
in
traffic
pad,
look
look
at
at
it,
it,
yeah.
thank you for
Well-
remembering that, okay.
What would
Got
be
it.
some of the potential solutions?
There's
I
a,
have no idea what you do
I
about
would,
it.
well, it's crowned, and so you would flatten it out, I guess,
Oh. Okay,
I guess that would be the thing.
okay.
okay.
Metal
Or-
and concrete.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, some Homeland Security pillars.
Exactly.
Would be
Okay.
another solution. But yeah, it's pretty critical.
Barb, did you have any more?
No, that was it.
I'd make the motion then to acquire 1253 9th Street, partial 1-428-C, using CDBG funds.
Second.
Motion made by Matt, second by Barb, and so moved.
Passed unanimous.
Okay. Item number 5, consideration of possible action to purchase 5 properties from Brown County using neighborhood enhancement funds.
All right. So we've worked with the county before to purchase other foreclosure properties. This year, they're offering us 5 vacant lots, of which one is located in the floodplain. And therefore, with that lot, we would most likely have to just divide that lot and try to sell it off to the neighbors, or try to figure out some other kind of community-related impact there. So that not being a buildable lot, we're looking at hopefully picking that one up just for $500 is what we offered. The other 4 lots, we're comfortable going with the Brown County asking price, as listed in the packet. The 4 lots are all buildable, kind of. Kind of spread out through the city. I think good opportunities for some new builds with the new Homes in Your Neighborhood program. One of which on 927 North Broadway, we actually own the lot right next to it. So that'll help us maybe do a little bit larger project there possibly. And that is also in an area that we've had some success in the past few years here.
And is the county's asking price driven by
That's
taxes that are owed, if I recall?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So this is the same, we've done this now for a couple of years. Okay.
Correct.
Excuse me.
What are the chances of getting the Reber Street property for the $500?
They've done it in the past.
That was our offer the last
Yeah.
round we did with them.
Okay.
So we'll see. Yeah, the way they're selling them. The last time we did this, we took all of the properties that they had, with the agreement that we would get the floodplain properties for $500. The county has actually separated out a few of the properties that they're still selling on their own this time. So if we can't get this one for $500, we'll just pass on it and just take the other 4.
Is there a chance we might partner with some other organizations with this, on these properties?
Definitely.
One
Private
way.
developers,
Yeah.
NeighborWorks,
Yeah.
Habitat. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Okay. Consideration and possible action to purchase 5 properties in Brown County.
I'd make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Matt, and seconded by Jim. We shall vote. All right.
Passed unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Guys are on a roll here. I think
Yeah.
these are the most properties per dollar that we've ever acquired so far.
Can be good negotiation.
Yeah, because these were,
Good negotiation.
because these were cheap ones, they're like vacant ones.
I'm about to blow the curve.
Okay. Number 6, consideration of possible action on the purchase
We're always counting on
of
that.
1031 Midford Avenue, parcel 18-248, using community development block grant funds.
This is another property that came to us through the owners, it was the homestead, the parents have died, and they don't know what to do with the property. They'd like to get rid of it. We've been through the property, and we're leaning towards demolition and rebuild, but there may be potential to say, I don't know, it's one of those properties, but they're asking $42,000 for the property. It's in a nice neighborhood, so it would be a very good location for another project.
What's it on the tax rules for? This is
67.
67, that's by up here. Okay.
So you think we could put a decent structure on there
Yes, sir.
with a 52-foot wide lot size? Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done that before.
Yeah, we have, and I'm also working on getting some new floor plans drawn up right now with actually this specific style in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those should be ready within the next few months here. By the time we have this one down, we should have a new plan ready to go to build on it, so.
Any other questions?
So there's no way to know what we're gonna put into it until you decide whether you're gonna remodel, rehab, tear down, rebuild.
Yes, that is true.
We'd bring it back, whether if it was, we decided to remodel it, we'd bring that back as a project, or to dispose of it, we'd bring it.
You've been in it, inside?
I have not, but Ken has.
Ken?
Yeah, I was in, real strange construction, I've never seen it before. They used I-beams 4 feet on center for the main floor joist of the house, and
Wow.
then just like a plywood deck on top of that, so it's kind of spongy. What the owners had said is that this was one of the like original like modular homes, or like where they built it offsite and brought it there. So the construction was a little strange, a little
So-
tight.
So it's not leaning toward rehab?
I don't think so. I think it would be probably one of those where our costs are gonna exceed just taking it down and putting up a new structure.
Generally, where's Winfrey?
It is
Like
between
Gray Street?
Denoyers and Bell off of Gray Street.
The
There's some
Hamptons.
homes over there that are all concrete floors. Yeah, so it's neither here nor there, but it might be a variant on those.
Yeah. I had never seen any construction like that before, so.
Yeah.
We have a team that we take through with our inspectors that take a look at it and give us their opinions on whether or not the costs are going to be too high. So
Yeah.
we'll do that on this property.
Well, I think it's a fair price.
Really buying the land, and really, more likely, I know. Anyway, bottom line, I think the best price you can get.
We'll get $4,000 in reclaimed steel.
There you go, that's something, something. All right,
I'd move to approve.
Second?
motion made by Jim, second by Barb, we shall vote. I'm getting used to this technology, yeah. The group are pretty good.
It's working, we can be trained.
We can be, they were trainable, there it is. That's worth something.
Passed unanimously.
They sent a monkey into space.
Yeah, right, good point. Number 7, consideration possible action on resolutions designating the Redevelopment Authority, RDA, to perform all acts necessary for creating, amending, and/or closing tax incremental finance districts, TID 7, 8, 9, 12, 17, 20, 21, and 22. Yes.
So, these are potential actions that we could look at taking as a city regarding these tax increment districts. It may be proper if you wanted to suspend the rules and take out of order and do the report on the
That's
tax
what I was-
increment districts.
yes.
So you get a little better idea of
I like
where,
that.
some of these are,
I like that.
some of the projects, and then just kind of the reasoning behind why some of these are up for discussion this year.
Okay, first of all, I'm entertain a motion to amend the agenda, if you will, and we're gonna go to informational number 2, then we'll come back to number 7.
So move.
Second.
Jim and Barb, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So we're gonna go into informational number 2, which is a great idea. I'm anxious to hear from Diane anyway.
So if you want, Krista, could I have a presentation on there in the folder? Do you want to hand out, did you bring the summary?
I did.
Okay.
Sneak in there?
Oh, absolutely.
So what Diana and I will do is tag team a little bit and go through, we just had our annual joint review board meeting the other week, reporting on the performance of all the tax increment districts. This is for year-end 2017, so it's the financial accounting for everything that happened at year-end. And we'll go through and talk a little bit about each district, kind of where it stands, what we're thinking about, what's happening in the future, pending projects, fiscal health, cash flows, all those other things. If you have any questions, I think hopefully Dan and I should be able to answer them. And then that'll hopefully set the context for reasons for resolutions regarding some of the actions, potentially for some of these.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so,
What I handed out to you was, starting last year, the state of Wisconsin put together a consistent reporting mechanism that all municipalities have to submit for their TIDs. And so this is the second year we've had to submit this report by July 1st. And what it does is it basically has the basic information on the TID, what type of, what TID district it is, what type it is, the name of it, the creation date, when the mandatory term date is. And then the middle, the remaining section tells you what the fund balance for that TID was at the beginning of the 2017. And then it shows all revenue sources and all expenditures and what the fund balance was at the end of 17. The next three columns are really just some guesses, cash flow projections. That is taken into consideration what we know now. Obviously, many things could change within a TID. So the last three columns are really just some estimates, some future guesses in a cash flow. But if you look at the fund balance at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, that is how the year ended for 2017. That is currently where these TIDs are sitting.
One of the things that the state listened to us on last year is on the annual reports, it made us put all our future project costs, but didn't allow us to put our revenue, so it looked like all of our TIDs were just going off the deep end. This year they amended the reports, thankfully, so you get a little bit better understanding of, okay, what's the future tax increment that's going to be coming there to show then, all right, when the TID is scheduled to close, what should be the balance in the TID account.
What I'd like to say is, each report is actually about a 5-page report, but this is a summary. So each report we had to submit a separate report. But again, we summarized it.
And how is future revenue derived?
That is taking what we currently are getting in for any tax increment and building in potentially a 1% increase, or if we know of already projects that are in the works and we already know based on a development agreement that by, let's say, 2019 or 20, that they have agreed upon assessed value, we have built that in estimates. Or if there's any development agreement, we take some guesses on interest and exempt computer aids or any development agreements. These are, again, based on what we know with some projections built in.
Okay, so, but it's based on development agreements we know, not like, hey, we hope to get a
Correct.
development agreement in 2022 of this size, or.
No.
And that's what Diana and I are doing with the cash flows, and I'll show at the end a way that we're thinking about maybe doing some reporting on this, kind of starting with the highest numbers and working our way back to go through, look, when some of these were created in terms of just what were the assumptions that were put in. But generally, again, I think for us, it's important to like base those assumptions on real projects and real numbers for growth. So with that.
For the future, can I just make, or at least have a conversation? So you have a certain amount of increment on all of these coming in currently, and that's part of your future revenue projections,
Correct.
aside from other development agreements that are in the books and so on. I wonder if it might not also help us to know what's a solid revenue that's coming in, plus what are we making estimates upon? You know what I'm saying? So
that's part of what we're starting to do
Okay.
with the new ones, is look at, okay, in the development agreements, by certain amounts, kind of estimating where they're at, but then once the project comes online, what's it really assessed at?
Yep.
And so, okay,
Yep.
that continues to grow, and then what's the other variable for like just general growth that we're assuming? Or if we're only just building it on the projects themselves.
Yep.
And so I think that'll be a little more clear in some of these future reports.
I
that
mean,
we're
this is
building.
good that we've got now. It's just
Yep. We're
building
working
on that.
So I thought what we would do is just kind of cruise through our
Yes.
TIDs. If you have any questions specific to them, hopefully Dan and I can provide some answers to that. So this is a map of our districts, and this is for 2018. Some that ended in 2017 are being closed out in 2018. Number 6, number 11, and number 15. So those are no longer going to be on the map. So we'll address those as we get to them. So our oldest tax increment district is number 4. That was for Washington Apartments, now Riverside Place. That was done on the east side of the river. Most of this has been overlapped with TID 5. So really the only project still on here is the Riverside Place Apartments, and I think they're down to converting those from apartments, all but maybe 1 or 2
Yeah.
are left to convert to condos, but as those have converted, that's helped with the assessed value, it's gone up.
Absolutely.
And so that one has been performing well. Part of the increment from that, part of the agreement was because they use Cherry Street ramp, part of that increment is going to help pay the debt service on the Cherry Street ramp, which is kitty corner from Riverside Place, and was part of the original TID 4. TID 5 is the big downtown district. Basically encompasses most of the core, the downtown and your east-west sides of the river. In here we continue to have, small incremental redevelopment happen, along with some bigger projects. This past year, or Metro is now fully online, fully assessed. Coming up now, there's no Watermark building will be getting built out, and so that increment will start to decline for that. But again, just some small projects. If you look, South Adams, automobile galleries made improvements. American Food Groups has just done some remodeling to their office. I mean, there's been just small bits and pieces and improvements here and there, which have really helped grow this particular tax increment district. With that, part of it over on the west side near the shipyard, because of the age of this district, we're probably gonna be looking at a new tax increment district specifically for that area. But as you see, I mean, this one, the fund balance, again, last year was kind of, we just talked about 16 and 17 are kind of the trough where we made a lot of payments out for these development agreements before the projects now are fully online. But that one, that balance is climbing back up and is anticipated to go back into the black probably in the next year or two.
2.
Okay. Tax increment District 6, that was near East Side neighborhood. That was one we decided to close. That was Navarino neighborhood primarily. We looked at in terms of there weren't a lot of additional projects happening in that area. We were able to fulfill the agreements in terms of the outstanding development agreements with the cash reserves we had in there. So we escrowed those and we'll continue to pay those out. This isn't the map of it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So that one will no longer be on here, but that closed out with basically no impact on the tax levy. We use those funds to escrow for the current agreement. So with that,
Before in
Yep.
6, what I just want to note is, the fund balance for 6 was positive 122. Well, it ended at about 309,000. And if you see within the revenues, there's a 200,000. A couple months back, we asked for transfers from TIF 12 for 3 of these TIDs, and that is to cover future expenses that we have. So by time we took some estimates and on future project costs and future revenues, these are going to be, there's going to be very small balances by the time we close them. By August, we have to close these TIDs. So that the reason why is, again, we have to now set, like as Kevin was saying, you have to escrow the dollars, and before we can close them, we had to make sure they were in a positive state.
right. So the escrow account allows us to pay the agreement, but the closure of the TID then allows the new increment to come back onto the taxing jurisdictions. Number 7 is Lombardi and Ashland. This is near Tundra Lodge, roughly the Legends District area. And it also encompasses a little bit north of Lombardi, a few blighted properties up along Ashland Avenue. This had a negative fund balance of 1117, but as of 1118, that has come back positive. We don't have a lot of development projects in the queue for this area, as we've talked about. There's only a few landowners there. Potential that we would keep it open maybe yet a year or two. The Legends District identified some infrastructure improvements in that area, particular like ped bike improvements, that we could use some of those funds in the account to use for those improvements. But other than that, without a lot of future development projects, it may be proper to look at potentially closing that TID, and that's why that's one of the resolutions that was put out there. Should a new project come forward, in the coming years, we may want to look at one that encompasses those properties. As you can see, the Fabry, Badger State property is not in this TID, so if we look at a project there, or some of the other properties around the area, those may be better served with the new TID, but again, based on the timing, we don't have anything right now. So this one may be one that we would look at for closure. Another one, potentially looking at foreclosure, is the Berger Morrow. This was over on the east side. This is, I think, the Borneman home is one of the major development projects in this area. This has been doing very well. That exceeded expectations in terms of revenue and increment. With that, we don't see a lot of new projects coming online. The positive fund balance is definitely help in terms of when you conglomerate all of our TIDs and looking at that. To close that, we'd also want to look at potentially closing one, which would be the next one, that has a negative fund balance in order to start to even some things out. But again, this TID, it's still going to be open for another 11 years, potentially without any projects. It may be an opportunity time to close it down early.
Is there a downside to leaving open a TID like that that has a positive projected balance?
So really, when we look at, and I think this is what we need to talk about, is, okay, well, if we close it down and those funds coming back to the city, what would that impact be on the levy in terms of budgeting for the future? As far as, leaving it open, if it's continuing to accrue, what it can do is it helps, provide some cushion for TIDs that might not be doing as well, and can serve as a donor TID when it comes time to close them out, or, again, our biggest thing I think we share is, we don't ever want a TID to have a negative impact on the levy.
Yep.
And so if we can use positive balances in some TIDs to help cut a deficit in another TID, I think that's more appropriate than making the levy fill those gaps. So, that's one, I think, again, because there is that positive balance in there. If we do close it, it's got to be balanced out with something that's more negative. And that's one of the things I think, just to explore a little bit further, whether that's, again, the resolutions are on here to allow RDA to start that process, but I think we need to start talking about whether that's a 2018 closure, a 2019 closure, a 2020 closure, and just, set up some timeframes. But I think it's, based on the balances, the appropriate time to start the conversation on it.
Thank you.
In my mind, tells me historically anyhow that once your available funds are sufficient to pay off the debt for that district, you actually have to close the district. Is that still the case?
Depends how you interpret it, in terms of when all project costs are paid. There's some things that, looking at some of these plans, there's projects that are listed that maybe weren't started, so you could look at using some of these funds to do those, because you're still in that expenditure period up to 22 years. And that's where, we kind of look at, all right, do you do those projects and then use the funds to do those projects, or you just say, we don't need those projects necessarily, let's just wait. And I think that's one of the ones going back to, the Legends District, Lombardi Ashland one, in terms of that infrastructure improvement. That's on the list, but what's the best source of revenue to do that? Is it the TID, or is it waiting for another project to come along?
But I'm guessing it holds once you get beyond the construction period, the last construction date, then if you have available funds sufficient to pay off the debt and project cost, you have to close the district.
Yes, then they would like you to,
Okay.
shut it down.
Yep.
And I think also to be considerate of the JRB, Joint Review Board, if we were to, as we're asking to open a few more TIDs, and we're asking to close someone with the negative fund balances, and we're asking to, that's why we would take some of these other positive ones into consideration that just don't have projects. I think we'd have more luck trying to open new ones.
Gotcha.
You still remember that?
No.
We have one member from each taxing jurisdiction.
Oh.
And one member of the public.
And not
Yes.
one member of the public, correct.
TID 9 is University Heights. This project, chicken and an egg scenario of horse and cart. I don't know what's the right analogy here. I think the intentions were good in terms of, creating this business park. I think perceptually, there's still a hard time for some clients getting over the distance, even though it really isn't that far out at all. There's some challenges with some of the city pieces in terms of our landlocked nature, but in order to move forward with that, we need a business willing to do that and to enable us to expend more funds to do that. I think in terms of I'm a little bit weary of a build it and they'll come kind of scenario here, because it's not like they're knocking down our doors with that. So to drive this further into that with, some additional infrastructure improvements, I don't know if it's the prudent thing to do. So we may just have to look at, in terms of the improvements that were made out there, I think were beneficial, and land acquisition, at the time was right, but, also you look at, in terms of when this was created in 2003, basically as things were ramping up right before the cliff and the recession, the timing wasn't right. And so it may be worth looking at, without additional projects coming, closing this down. With that, there's a pretty significant fund balance deficit here, so that would, again, require likely the allocation from a positive TID. And in this case, you look at another one you're closing down, like TID number 8, or you look at TID 12. One of the things in TID 12 we're still doing is figuring out the cost of the expansion of Avery Road and the sewers and all the utilities out there, that we want to make sure we have enough money there to pay cash for that. That may be one, again, unless something turns around pretty quickly, it's really not going anywhere.
Probably a few years ahead of its time.
Yeah, I mean, it's progressive, and I think, again, you could rewind to 2003 and you see how things were developing and how things were going, and then also you look at the development plan in terms of how much land was allocated towards commercial out there. I mean, big box and retail was really exploding around that time, and it just, the last 15 years, things have majorly shifted, and I think once the population starts moving again out there, again, Red Smith, that area exploded residentially, I think that's starting to move forward again, but until you get that cluster, we're still probably, I would say, at least 5-10 years out towards that really having the demographics to attract a lot of development.
And that's what I agree. Until like the I-43 industrial park is like really full, I think that's probably when that next push goes to where's the next place I could go.
Right, and I think that's one of the things we've talked about is, even with the expansion of I-43, even though logistically you may spend more time going down Mason Street to get to the far east end, people like I-43 and businesses like the reputation there and like being close to it. So even though they may be traffic-wise or logistics-wise at a disadvantage, they prefer that over this. And really, until we get to the border with Eaton, I think, we're going to see I-43 fill up before this does.
Yeah, sure.
To 10, Maine and Mason. This area was a blight district. It's got a few more years left, about, let's say halfway through. Some of the projects in here, 1901 Main, this is just down from the Pick and Save grocery store. This was a redevelopment project, some vacant sites that came online now last year with the bank, fast food restaurant, and dental office. So that's online, dollar store renovation across the street. So there's been some smaller projects in here that have been picking up. Nothing big or imminent right now, but continues to be positive. And there's still a few more opportunity sites in this area where we could see some redevelopment. And I think with East Del Mall, starting to move, I think this corridor is doing pretty well, and we'll start to see that turn a little bit more, but otherwise it's been a decent TID. 11 is another one we shut down. It's Old Main Street. Again, as Diana talked about, the other in there to offset from TID 12 the allocation to close that out. Again, probably just like timing issue and then creating the TID and development. And then things that came through, a combination of us acquiring properties for the East River Trail and the school district acquiring properties for their facilities. Again, both good things in terms of amenities and recreation and employment and jobs, but terrible things in terms of, for the property tax values. Things that went in at base value that got taken down to zero. It just made it a struggle to kind of come out of that, and so we felt it was best to close that down, and Jeremy did. So that one will be closed this year. So I-43, number 12, again, a very successful business park, a very successful tax increment district. One of the things we had talked about is potentially a modification for this. You can see right near Arlene Lane there, right south of Mason Street, the northeast corner of the Erie Road project. For Nature's Way, that parcel was not included in the TID, and they can't combine the parcels because that one wasn't in the TID. So we may look at an amendment to put that parcel in, so Nature's Way can combine that all into one parcel. They could keep it two, but based on where their building is, it's probably cleaner for it all to be one, given setbacks and coverage and all those types of things.
Right.
So that may be the amendment that we're looking at in terms of territory. I think we're still maybe a year or two out yet from looking at like the I-43 expansion and a new TID maybe east of Erie Road. Some of that's covered right now, but I think in terms of once we get to finalizing the construction of Erie Road South, we ran into a little hiccup with wetlands, so only half of that road's going to be done this year, the next half will be done next year. And then also sewer service will be expanded, half will be finished this year, half will be expanded next year. We'll basically allow everything east of Erie Road to be developed for industrial uses. So I think that would be the time then we look at, okay, what are the final costs on those? I think we have enough cash on hand to be able to pay for those. And if there's any other project costs that come with that, we can look at closing down TID 12 then and opening up perhaps a new one based on a project for I-43 East. But in terms of the amendment for this year, that it was probably just going to be the territory amendment was all we're going to be looking at.
What's the
Little
construction,
white spot that we're talking about?
Yeah, a little white spot right next to Arlene
Yeah,
Lane right
okay.
there. Yep.
what's the construction deadline on that one?
For Erie Road,
Yep.
so we have to have things done to the driveway for Nature's Way. Then I think by fall, I gotta look at the development agreement again. And then next year, planning on taking Erie Road from the driveway all the way down to the border with Bellevue.
With the TIF restriction?
Oh, in terms
Construction deadline on the TIF?
for,
It says 2025 for the mandatory term date.
correct. It's 3 years before, so 2022.
Okay.
I'll come quick.
Yeah.
It will, and I think
3.5
that's
years.
where we talked about with Jeremy last year. I think we kind of had penciled out, probably could be set for a closure like 2021. Again, just making sure all those costs come in that we know before finally shutting it down. And then just some of the projects that have helped TID 12, Willow Creek Health, that's the Strategic Behavioral Health Hospital, that's all fully online now. Aurora continues to expand, rehab their campus, generate additional increment. And Nature's Way, that is underway right now. It's definitely not this green out there right now.
Right now.
All under construction, but they're hoping to be open, closed up before the winter, and then doing, you probably know better than I do, and then running some equipment, and then fully online next year. 13, that's northern downtown. This is basically, along Main Street, north and south, part of the newer projects that was developed to help take down the old mall. With that, there's been a lot of money expended on that. There's a lot of upfront money for demolition, incentives, along with Schreiber, Northland, Convention Center. I mean, there was a lot of projects in. But with that, Schreiber being fully online now, the Northland will be set to open this fall. We were just through there the other day, so construction is going well.
Good.
They're aiming, I think they'd like, now Marriott calls the shots exactly when it opens, but they're looking at a mid-October opening. So trying to specifically nail down that date, but things have been progressing great. Since the new ownership group took over, new construction has been going, but that being fully online, along with, again, a few other small pockets of just, some redevelopment in this area. So it's a little bit of a crawl yet to get back to that positive cash balance, but ultimately the projections feel that we'll get there. 14, the old Larson Canning factory, now the rail yard. that project, again, kind of took a hit when it basically went to the Redevelopment Authority, went to us for a year and then kind of came off the tax rolls. Hurt with that, but now that property back in private hands, and development continues with the southern buildings. Those are now almost fully built out. There's still probably a little bit more to be done in building D or E. But then work now is starting on buildings RS and T to the north, building those up for some office space, working on the infrastructure, creating the townhomes, still working with the developer TWG out of Indianapolis about affordable housing project at the north end of the parcel. They didn't get the WIDA tax credits in this round, but they're applying, working on another round, so there may be an opportunity to see that project realized, and actually probably a little better value property tax wise based on some of the rents. They continue working on that, and we'll continue to see that increment grow in that district.
Good.
15 was the third one we closed last year. That was Old North, Old Webster area. Some of that I think was done for potential industrial expansion. Didn't quite take off the way anticipated. It's also just, Cheryl knows it's a tough neighborhood. Being in floodplain, it's hard to put money into your property to improve it, and just wasn't going anywhere, and didn't have a lot of projects in queue, so it was best to close that down. I think that one was a stop the bleeding because it was starting to decrease, and so we wanted to just make sure to shut it down before it did have any more negative impacts. 16 Military Avenue. This one has been a tough one for my time, but I think this one had a reset on it. With that, there was still a lot of costs, legacy costs, I guess, from the infrastructure that was constructed through there. And the street looks great, and accommodations are great, ped bike, all of that. But with that, we just have not seen the pace of development needed or anticipated to keep up with that. With that, some bright spots with the new owner of the Green Bay Plaza. Their thoughts for hopefully, again, continuing to use the retail space that they have, securing some good tenants in there. They've got a good mix. Same owner also acquired the Sears and would like to see that improved, and has some plans for revamping that space along with that huge parking lot. I know your farmer's market is awesome, Leah, but pretty sure you don't need the whole lot for doing that. So looking at, again, some additional development on the outlots here. We have seen some incremental stuff, again, kitty corner to this, across the street, some of the outlots at the Burlington place going. Martin is working on an expansion right now, and so been working on some additional smaller project. This, I think, is probably the biggest opportunity that's there yet, but we still have a ways to go to crawl out of this one. But with that, we'll still work at it and keep going, but there's work to be done here yet. And it's difficult. I think the other thing is that we can't expand the territory because it was a distressed TID, so we're kind of working with what's there.
Sure.
North Broadway, 17. This was done, I think, with Packerland Builders Project was the title of one of this. Just a handful of parcels. In short, this is another one proposed for shutting down. This is an agreement to take some dilapidated, blighted property. It's an old cheese warehouse or something, fallen into disrepair. Take it down, repurpose it with some other structures. It's been done. Warehouse is down, new structures are in, but they did not hit the targets that they were anticipated to meet in terms of revenue generation. Because it is only a handful of parcels, it's not like we can get much new development here. So we feel it's best probably to look at closing it down, because this is, I don't know, as good as it's going to get in terms of the development. We do have some clauses in the development agreement in terms of guarantees from the developer that were not met, and we feel that we can still work on those guarantees whether the TID exists or not, and so we'll continue to pursue those. But as far as the growth in this district, it is what it is, and I don't think we're gonna get anything more, so it may be good to close this one. It's a minor one, I mean, it's a small one, but in terms of, I think it was tried, it was done, and there's nothing more really we can do with this piece. 18, University Avenue. So this is one of the newer districts. You know, again, this really kind of stems out from the planning efforts with the Brownfields redevelopment corridor study, and you know how that morphed into particular projects. This one's been good. The first project in, you know, redoing the University Avenue Triangle, the new Festival Foods, the Outlot, the Quick Trip, which is not on here, but now fully online. And there's still one parcel, that parking lot, kind of the mid-left there, that is still yet to be developed. That's temporary use, but there could be some building on there as well. That's met our projections for, you know, creating some increment in that area.
Who owns that parcel? You own it?
The developer does.
Oh, developer.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, so that was part of the package.
Okay.
Yep, so right to the right of the bowling alley area there, it's I'm sorry, the left of the driveway for the bowling alley.
Yep.
That was a parcel that they acquired. They're using it for some
Okay.
parking right now. It's about 1.5 acres, so I mean, it's a decent
Yeah.
little retail site.
Absolutely.
Packer Line Packing is moving along, 30-plus acres, working on taking down all of those buildings. Simultaneously, you've probably seen some construction near the front end. They've got 2 of their buildings going up. They worked on an agreement with WGB to probably provide some student housing.
Yes.
So they'll be looking at getting those done, anticipating by August, so hopefully on the fast track with that. But that, in terms of, you know, putting some money into that project, we had agreed, I think, 1.5 for environmental remediation demolition. If those first 2 buildings come online, that will be sufficient to cover the debt service on that. So in terms of meeting their guarantees, after that, there's some pay-go available, but we feel good that once those come online, that will help with that project. And because of that agreement with WGB, there's still the demand for housing from the other aspects in terms of the other senior-focused units and market rate units, but that'll get those buildings. We initially anticipated 5 years for build-out, that could maybe come down to 4 or maybe even 3 years.
Good.
So that's been moving along well. There's also been a plan on the DeKaiser site for some additional apartments, I think about 90 units. Developer has been looking at, what do you call it, like mid-market rate apartments in this area, taking the old lumber yard and putting those in there. They've been working through the planning process. They've not been looking for any TIF assistance with that. So, but with that, they're in the district, so increment they create will help out with that district. Our newest TID, 19, East Mason, East Town Mall. Created last year. The Cub Foods, thankfully, does not look like this anymore. So that's all built out with the exception of, there's one small retail space, about 3,000 square feet, that's still open for lease, but the other 3 tenants have their full build out. And so in terms of future projections, you know, they're going to be hitting those numbers. And there's also, I think, we've talked an agreement to pay taxes on a certain value assessed. I'm going to pull that exact number. But that project has moved along. East Town Mall, been still working with the developers as they put together their package for tenants. Again, it's a process of lining them up, but they feel good about where they're at. They also have in their development agreement, and I think just, you know, in terms of risk for the city, there's some money in up front, but they don't get that money until they actually start to do some work. So in terms of pulling the trigger on things, we're not in any money yet.
And we have come up with an agreement on the property taxes.
Correct. Yep, and so we settled on, for 2017, through arbitration, mediation,
Mediation.
and settled on an amount for that,
Good.
which was actually just for tax year 2017.
Oh.
But for future, they also have a development agreement to pay taxes at certain assessed levels, and it ramps up, I think, by 2022 to 18 million.
Yep.
So we'll put that's been in our projections, that's what they're gonna pay taxes on, in exchange for, you know, some of that money that's going into the project. So one of the things that, and this is what we're doing, kind of working backwards, and the ones we got to, is trying to then chart out, okay, where are these projects, or where are these tax increment districts?
Yes.
The fund balances for each of these accounts, kind of building in incremental taxes, so that's the green bar. Or just let me put on the left is dollars, on the top going across is years, from 2017 or whenever it's created to when it's going to close. So basically you've got zero, the green bar is incremental taxes, these are based on new projects that are coming in. And then below that is our costs. So every year, the management, we've got to pay a DOR fee, we allocate staff time to these districts. Dan's been worked with JRB between, what staff does in terms of drafting development agreements or administrating development agreements or putting together, deals.
Right.
Time that's charged back to the TIDs. Any debt service that we anticipate in, and so for here, there's some debt service that we anticipate taking for East Town Mall, and then any amount that is pay-go. And again, these are estimated moving forward based on where those amounts go. So you can see then, year after year, where those balances fall, what's above, what's in the black, what's in the red, and then the white is basically the TID balance of, okay, so that account, and like most TIDs, you go into a trough of, there's some expenses that you put in, things to do before the property comes online and starts generating increment, and then you hit zero. So here we're anticipating 2025, 2026, and then that balance builds. And so this is a good way to kind of look at, all right, cash flows in the district, and then how they come through with anticipated projects. So these are some of the things that Diana and I are working on towards getting back some of the existing ones, kind of seeing where those points are in terms of building the balance, and again, timing out for costs and future costs, what's in there and what's the right length of a TID, and how long does it take to bounce back, and what are our assumptions, again, building in maybe some factor of safety if we hit another recession in coming years. But so with that, these are going to be kind of what we're going to turn some of these table reports into, just to get a better visual picture of where some of these are headed. So that's what we have today. The ones that we wanted to also talk about in terms of resolutions for creating, one would be for the Whitney Park area. So Whitney Park's smack in the middle here, and we're still working on defining an exact boundary. But with that development agreement for Whitney School, for redevelopment of the school into apartments, adding a dozen townhomes, 901 Main Street, which is right at the intersection of Van Buren, just did the term sheet for 20 apartment units here. And then there's also, and didn't build in here yet, potential of the term sheet for some additional townhomes, near Bader, and another phase of townhomes further south down in Van Buren. And so we just started putting some numbers together about projecting these. Most of these are pay-go, but you can look and see, all right, just based on these few projects, this doesn't include any other properties right now, where that balance goes. So this one has a little bit longer of a trough, given the pay-go amounts. I think we're a little more aggressive in here. But with that, the design was that the payback period would be a shorter period of time, not drawn out through the whole TID, so that once you hit, about 15, 16 years in, it starts to pull out of the deficit, and because it's a pay-go, you could look at, depending on how fast that balance accumulates, again, potentially closing that early. So this still needs a little bit of refinement yet to pull in all the other properties that might be in here, but it's just a general sense of where that balance may go, creating this tax increment district. Another was for Green Bay packaging. So we look at this as either a blight or rehab district, and basically would encompass the properties of packaging, basically to facilitate the development agreement and their expansion. Obviously the new paper mill, potential expansions, improvements to the box plant. And in here, again, the agreement was for all pay-go, primarily just focused on, these properties, and the opportunity in the future maybe to pull in some additional properties, but just focused on right now, a little bit of management expenses up front before they anticipate this being fully online 2021, 2022, and generating, significant tax increment. With that, the agreement is for substantial pay-go, but with that, the percent that goes in will generate a good TID balance in there that we've talked about we could use for some other projects, improvements up in that area. And then the last one would be consideration for a new TID in the shipyard area. This one may be able to be pushed back out to start 1/1 of 19. One of the things that we want to be careful of is, again, putting property in a TID and then taking it off the tax rolls. So because Badger Sheet Metal was on the tax rolls at the beginning of the year, probably not the best to put it in now. The other option would be to create the TID now and then do a territory amendment next year, and put Badger Sheet Metal in, maybe cleaner based on just some of the other projects. I mean, we own most all the property anyway, so waiting a year I don't think is going to impact. But I think in terms of starting that process to give authorization to start working on that is something that we'd be looking at for creating a new tax increment district in this area. The other two, Whitney and packaging, would be 1/1 of 18, but the shipyard most likely would be 1/1 of 19. All right.
Great update.
So more than we ever wanted to know about all of our
No, that's good.
tax increment
Very good.
districts.
We've never had this great update. Very good. Right.
Spreadsheet's helpful.
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna go back down to number 7.
Number 7.
Yeah, catch up. I'm gonna reread it. Okay, we're back to number 7. Consideration of possible action on resolutions that designated the Redevelopment Authority, RDA, to perform all acts necessary for creating, amending, and/or closing tax incremental finance districts, TID, 7, 8, 9, 12, 17, 20, 21, and 22. So this is a resolution that will go to the City Council.
So, yes, so by state statute, the Plan Commission is the authorized body to work on tax increment districts.
Right.
In the city, it's generally been a policy that the Redevelopment Authority has handled these, given that they're, especially when it comes to like blight and conservation districts, I mean, that authority was created for that specific purpose. These resolutions would designate RDA to basically be the vehicle for this process. This would be just like we did last year. These resolutions then would allow us to come up with a project plan, a potential boundary for new TIDs, an amendment, as I said, for TID 12, and then resolution potentially for closing and a timetable for closing the other TIDs. What this does not do is it doesn't officially make any of these actions, so there's still another kick at it. With that, if there's any hesitation about closing any of these TIDs or any of these that you don't even really want to consider, now would be the time not to do it. But if you want to at least explore it, we'll come back to this body with the recommendations for what or if we should do something with these TIDs, most likely through August and September, as we did last year. And then for the ones that we do make changes to, we'll have a public hearing here. Those will go to council, let it go to the joint review board, and ultimately back to our council, and then to the joint review board to be finalized. We have to have things wrapped up for the new ones by the end of September.
Okay.
So our action is just to recommend this to the common council.
Correct. So if this is recommended to the common council, these resolutions go to council next week. If council approves of these, then we'll start the process of working on these to move forward with these plans.
And this allows you to comprehensively think about all of those different districts, what to close, what to keep open, what to amend, how to change boundaries.
Correct, and that's why they're kind of all lumped
All
together,
lumped
because
together.
that, I think, gives us the most flexibility in terms of coming back with that. I think, again, at the end of the day, we're trying to protect the levy.
Yes, yes.
And be fiscal stewards, so that gives us the most flexibility to look at all of these options, and just wanted to be open about, okay, what options might we be looking at for doing that.
Because you could come back, and say, oh, we want to close this one, we're not touching this one, we're changing boundaries on this one, and we're opening these 3.
Correct.
So I would move the recommendation.
Second that.
Yeah, motion made by Jim, second by Barb, on agenda item number 7. Informational, finance report and check register, which I did look at. Do you have any questions? We don't need any motions on these ones. Informational ones, no.
Correct.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good. Jim, you have something?
Nope.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Blessing.
Okay, that's good. Number 3, Kevin, you've been busy, very busy.
A little bit, we had a good June.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so since our meeting, Foxconn moved in downtown, or will be moving in.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's a very great testament to the region in terms of, showing off the, strength we have in terms of demographics and workforce and potential. But then I also think, like, choosing smack in the middle of downtown Green Bay is a
Absolutely.
testament to a lot of the stuff that we're doing here, and then
How aware were you of this coming?
a little bit. I mean, one of the things I think we've worked on hard is when Foxconn announced they were coming to the state, we made sure to work with the state that, look, whatever can't be contained in Racine County
You
or
bet.
beyond, I
Absolutely.
mean, we're available here. I mean, it's such a large investment that that supply chain is gonna extend beyond just
Yes.
that region. And so for another, way for us to get involved, making sure very clear to the governor's office, WEDC, Department of Administration, that we're
Very good.
willing, able to help work with this project in whatever way we can. I think in terms of the real testament is that they're gonna do, research and development and technology up here. I mean, that's just fantastic to be able to get that, those types of jobs, in the city and right downtown. So, yeah, we're still working in terms of a schedule, for build out and move into those things. As for the other pieces that are in there right now, tenants are, gonna be in place. ISG still is gonna be planning to move in, so all those pieces will continue. But yeah, so we're excited about that. That came on the heels of Imperial opening downtown, taking the old Feld building, putting a significant amount of money into it. Looks awesome in there. But 300+ employees, they would like to grow as well downtown. So it was very good, again, to kind of see that move forward with the building. That might have been, a little bit tricky because again, it's not right in the core, but still close enough to offer good office space. As I mentioned, Northland, just through the other day, construction's looking very good. I mean, it's busy over there, and plan to be moving forward with opening in mid-October. And then the rail yard, as mentioned, just finalizing some stuff on the infrastructure to get them moving, plans for the streets, utilities, stormwater, which will enable, construction of the townhomes, but then also open up a lot more of those interior parcels for development as well. So,
Very busy.
yeah, it's been a good,
Great successes.
good June, so.
Yes, so without doubt.
And then the other piece, it's maybe our last meeting in here. Unless we have a special meeting, our remodel on 6th floor has been ahead of schedule.
Looking nice.
Yes.
So we're excited about getting back up there on one floor. So unless we have a special meeting to talk about the RFP, our next regular meeting will hopefully be back upstairs in our native habitat.
No dumpster to compete with parking.
Yes.
Right.
One request, I know Barb said you've seen it at council, but a report on bonding. We would like to see that information, where we're at, where we're going. And was it a spreadsheet, Barb, that you saw? Remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, anyway.
That must have been a while ago that we talked.
It'd be nice, because we're having approved some expenditure, it'd be nice to know where that fits into the little scheme of things.
Okay.
Okay. So, maybe next meeting, or September, whatever.
I had a quick update
Yes,
on
please.
159 North Maple.
Oh, yeah.
We had the
Yes.
public walkthrough last week, which was a great success. We had probably over 300 people that made it through the property. It was held during the farmers market, so I know there was a lot of people that piqued their interest. The developers do have an accepted offer on it already, for close to the asking price. They couldn't give me the actual number until it closes, so.
Right.
But, yeah, they were asking.
Listed at 240.
249, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So,
On Maples.
On Maple Street.
right on Maple.
It's a new Maple now.
Yeah, I guess so.
We should have reminded you of before pictures when we picked it up. Some of you went, did you go through it?
Yeah, I did.
I feel like you went through it.
In
and
fact,
it-
I think I made the comment, we probably should just demolish.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But that being said.
That being said, yeah, we will be doing, next week, I'll email all of you, we're gonna do a staff and RDA walkthrough with the
Okay.
developer.
Okay.
Just to show you, what kind of success we can have with our
You don't have a date
program.
and time for that yet.
I don't have that yet, I kinda wanted to see,
Yep,
and,
that'd
you
be
know,
great.
reach out to you guys to see what works best for you.
Excellent.
Super.
Yeah.
249.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Matt and Barb, motion to adjourn, all those, saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
We're adjourned.